Welcome back to Beyond the Wrench. My name is Jay Goninen, and I am your host. Today, I'm joined by Antonio Maldonado and Jake Martin from BMW of North America. Both are deeply involved in recruiting and developing technicians and working to connect people to careers in the industry. We talk about technician development, recruiting, and what it takes to build a stronger pipeline moving forward. Let's get right into it. Antonio, Jake, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Jake.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It's an honor. It's great to be on the show.
Yeah, I'm pumped. We had a lot of fun conversations prior to this recording and getting to know you guys a little bit better. I'm really, really excited about this one. Antonio, let's start with you. Let's learn a little bit about your background. What do you do at BMW of North America?
Awesome, Jay. Well, my name is Antonio Maldonado. I've been with the brand now going on 9 years. Originally, I graduated high school. I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. I did 12 years in the Marine Corps. Wanted a different career path, and I applied with BMW. I found out that they were looking for a recruiter that can recruit technicians, but from post-secondary colleges and technical schools. So after a few interviews, I decided to part ways and change to a different chapter in my life. Departed from the Marine Corps and joined BMW. So what I do now with BMW is I help with recruiting with technical colleges and community colleges across the United States, do presentations. I also work closely with high schools as well. What we want to do is talk to the high school students to show them a career path, a roadmap of what they can do eventually in the future, which can lead them to community colleges, different technical schools, depending on the choice, what fits best in their lifestyle. At that point, they can early on plan and make a decision on what they want to do in the automotive industry. So with that, I travel across the United States. Typically, I do anything west of the Mississippi, but myself and Jake, we share territories, but there is times where Jake comes out west or I'll go out east, and we support each other when we have big career events. There's sometimes that colleges have like a whole day of a career day and then a second day of interviews. So me and Jake will pair up together and we combine our recruiting efforts across the United States.
How often would you say you're on the road?
So this month I was on the road 3 weeks straight, right? So maybe like a day or two of a break and then back on the road. But typically what myself and Jake do is we plan our travel. We make that communication with the schools. We can't be in every school every single day. So we pre-plan, and that's something that the Marine Corps taught me well. I was a recruiter for the Marine Corps for 7 years out of the 12 years that I was in. So what I do is I have like my year in sight, which I plan big events throughout my whole calendar year. I'll create like a month where I'm every month I plan what school I'm going to visit, going down to the week, going down to the day. So that way my time management is important, and specifically in this role because, again, we have family, we have kids. Myself and Jake are about the same age, kids about the same age, so we have to be able to balance that life between home, work, and then travel. So it's one of those things that if your time management is not something that is down to the point, then you start having that friction, whether it's traveling, work. But I think me and Jake have a great team, and we actually sometimes we'll text back and forth of what can help. Can he help me on this event? Can I help him on this event? So that way we can balance that work and lifestyle at home.
We should talk a lot about that because that's one thing that I struggle about as well. And Jake, we'll get right to your story here in just a second. I do have to ask, with your Marine background,
Yes.
Of being a Marine, packing a suitcase, I'm guessing you're on point. Are you a carry-on guy, or are you? You're not checking bags.
No checking bags for me. So the military.
How do you pack your carry-on? Because I travel a lot too, and this is one of the struggles that I've got is I'm always trying to fit it into a carry-on.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm folding clothes really nice, and I just also when I look at it, I'm like, I bet if like you being a Marine, your suitcase probably looks perfect when you put it together.
Yeah.
Mine does not, and I get really frustrated by that. And then I inevitably forget something. I need a checklist every time I go, so like that I know that I'm getting everything that I need.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, that was day one in boot camp, was getting to put everything in a bag a certain way. Your socks are folded a certain way, down to your pants, your shirts. It's a whole list that I already have programmed in my head. It's kind of like when you're leaving the house and you're like, keys, wallet, phone, boom. It's one of those things that you're checking yourself, and it's pretty funny that you mentioned that because me and Jake were just in Colorado in January. We went up to Wyoming and Colorado, and Jake shows up with this big, huge suitcase rolling in. We're like, man, we're only here 4 days. Why do you need that big suitcase? We had just a little small carry-on and hygiene stuff in my backpack, and that's all I need.
Well, I think I always pack a little extra, knowing that most likely I'm going to spill it on myself at some point over the course of the week, and I'm going to need an extra shirt at some point. And I think I overthink it at times, where I'm like I'm trying to get all this stuff in. So, Jake, we're going to welcome you into the conversation so you can defend yourself a little bit in this conversation. How you doing today?
I'm good, Jay, and thanks for having me. It's a great honor to be on the WrenchWay podcast. I've ever since I actually saw you guys come across my LinkedIn a couple years ago, and I was like, oh, this seems like a cool opportunity. And then as we spoke last week and kind of talked to Antonio and Lisa about what you guys do, it's really cool to be on here. So my background's different from Antonio. During high school, I actually worked at a family friend body shop. I was just, my dad suggested it as just, help clean up around the shop, maybe a cool experience. It was definitely kind of what got my gears turning as far as wanting to do collision work. That, and it's a funny story. So I went through my high school career center tour, and I was there. We went to go to we had a career center that had, culinary, firefighting, law enforcement, all these different careers that you could do. And it was, you go there half a day instead of going to regular school. So that was already a plus for me because I was like, hey, if I can do something cool besides, sitting in a classroom, I'm down for it. So we get there, we get to the automotive section. And originally I was like, I want to be a mechanic. And then started speaking with the mechanical instructor. And one of the first things he said is, this class is going to be mainly book work. You guys have been doing a lot of studying, and just all this stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, that's, all right. Well, I'll keep it on the back burner. And we go to the collision side. And the first thing the instructor said is, he's like, how many of you guys have seen Pimp My Ride? And at that time, that show was huge. And I was like, oh, yeah. He's like, well, let me show you our paint booth. This is just like what they have on there. So I was like, all right, I want to do this. So I signed up, went through the Career Center for 2 years. As I was working in a collision center part-time and high school, and really fell in love with it, fell in love with the body side of it, and then went to actually participated in the skills back in high school. And then after that, I earned a scholarship to go to Greenville Tech, and then went to Greenville Tech, our local technical college, for collision work. And then after that, I worked at the independent shop I was with in high school for a couple years, and then branched off into some bigger dealerships. From there, so I worked in a Ford dealer for a while, worked in a Toyota dealer for a while, and then I actually got the chance to teach high school at a career center. So for me, it was kind of like, going full circle and being able to teach kids again. I did that for about 2 years, and then kind of a chance encounter. One of my old guys I worked at a dealership with had moved to he had went to work for BMW at one of the ports, and then he came to the performance center in Spartanburg as a painter at the performance center, and he said they were looking for collision technicians, and I just knew at that time, it was a really good opportunity if I could get in with BMW somehow, because I'm from South Carolina. We have the major manufacturing plant here, and it's just, as a kid seeing family members and, friends of family that work at the plant, work for BMW, that was a really good opportunity. So I ended up doing that. Started at BMW in 2014 as a collision technician. And then that's kind of where I got turned on to the STEP program, because that's where the STEP program was in the performance center at the same time. So I got to see the students, I got to see the instructors, and just kind of talk to them about the program and what the program was, the ins and outs of it. Because at the time, the collision program wasn't as heavily recruited as as automotive was, and it was a lot different pre 2020. So I was thinking to myself, man, if I would have heard about this opportunity in college, I would have jumped all over it. So they had an opening for an instructor. I applied for it and ended up getting that job. So 2018, I became an instructor. Taught step for about 7 years. I enjoyed every minute of it. I did step, I did dealer training, so kind of would bounce back and forth between South Carolina and our Atlanta training center, doing different collision training programs. Everything from estimating training all the way up to more advanced high voltage BMW structural training, things like that. And then we had an event at the training center. We had some people come down to film like a promotional video. And then I kind of was approached at that time about possibly doing some recruiting and how I feel about that. And my manager at the time, very supportive of it. That's one thing I say about my manager during my time as a trainer, was always supportive, always looking for me to advance in the next way that, he could help. So I ended up getting on as a recruiter last February, and it's been great. I get to go and speak to colleges. I get to speak to students. Get to engage with high school students, which for me is huge. 'Cause I think if you can get in front of a high school student when they're at that time in their lives where you either have people telling them they have to go a certain route, they have to do a 4-year college, they have to go here. I like to just kind of get in there and say, listen, this is my story. You can go really far. You can travel the country, see a lot of cool places, automotive doesn't mean that you're just in a workshop all day, which there's nothing wrong with that. Those guys make a ton of money, but there's also a lot of advancements. Now, looking to defend myself with Antonio's suitcase question, I was actually thinking that when he said that. So for me, it's I've been able to put everything in a carry-on, but like I always in the back of my mind, I'm like, did I bring enough stuff? Like, am I gonna get there? I'm gonna have to run to the store and get something. So I was like, all right, this is like a 4-day trip. We're going to different places. I might go to the gym. I need some workout clothes, things like that. So it's funny. I pull up to the airport and I get out and I'm like lugging this. So I have a regular size carry-on and a massive suitcase. I have nothing in between. So I bring the massive suitcase and I'm walking up and like Antonio he pops the trunk and I'm looking in the trunk. I'm like I look in the back seat. I'm like, where's your big suitcase? Like, that's my suitcase, man. I'm like, there's no way. So I like throw this thing in the back, and I'm like, I want to see the inside. Like, I want to see how he packs it, because I'm with you on that. And it was like, all right, it was the same thing last week when I went to Coda for a week. I brought my big suitcase. I went with one of our other team members. He does, he's on the marketing and analyst side, and so he pulls up, he opens the trunk, he has a big suitcase in there. I was like, all right, man, you're cool, we're normal. He was a civilian, so I threw mine in there. I'm like, this guy gets it.
That actually, that's funny.
Yeah, but as far as the travel goes, it's one of those things that you have to really. I learned this in my first year, is you really have to adjust. You have to plan well in advance. And there's also things that will pop up kind of unannounced that maybe fall outside the scope of recruiting. One thing we do is we support our technical service engineers. We support our technician recruiters. So sometimes they may have an event that they want us to be at, or they may want to have us go to a dealership visit with them to talk to the managers about step and what that entails. So sometimes I try to space my travel out to give myself some home time, but there may be a time where it's like, hey, you need to be in Virginia for 3 days, and we make that work. But again, I think planning is key. Definitely having the family support is huge too, and it helps. And it does get exhausting sometimes. Especially, I feel like me and Antonio are kind of on the same page. This year alone has been, I've traveled a lot. We started in Colorado and Wyoming in January, and then it seems like it's been fast ever since. But I'm coming kind of down to a slowdown. I've got some schools planned out for the summer. We've really met our recruiting numbers, pretty far in advance. So that's going to give us some time to kind of, slow down a little bit, focus on next year's candidates.
Antonio, it's the shoes that get me every time. I gotta throw shoes in a carry on, and that's the challenge for me. I think.
You gotta put them in the backpack. So you put the
Got to put them in
hygiene
the backpack.
in the
All right,
There we
backpack.
go.
The
Okay.
shoes go in the backpack with the hygiene bag.
Oh,
that
okay.
is
Okay.
great life advice right there. See, we've just found out the secret to packing. Antonio, thank you for that.
Everything else will fit in the carry on. But I do gotta give a lot of kudos to my wife though. She kind of got the system down and she lays it out for me. So all I technically got to do now is get up and walk out with the suitcase. She got accustomed to so much traveling over the few years that she knows how to pack it and where to put the stuff. So yeah.
Oh, so we're giving Antonio the credit here, but it's Antonio's wife.
Actually, my wife. My wife gets the credit.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take the full credit because then it's a podcast and I'm gonna be in big trouble.
So another thing too, Antonio doesn't have a large backpack. It's a standard size backpack. So he's not rolling in with like a
military.
3-day assault pack. It's a regular backpack. So
A lot of envy out of me right here. And now, Jake, you had mentioned just coming back from COTA, Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, awesome racetrack. That's one of the really cool things about your job, right? Where
Yeah.
you get to go out and interact with some technicians. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
yeah, so that's one of the ones where if I tell family and friends I'm going to go to work, I got to travel for work.
I
It's
have
like,
to go to
oh,
work.
yeah, and I really can't. We're blessed to be able to do that. So what we do is between our entire team. So me and Antonio, we're the step recruiters. We also have our management team, and then we have a few other folks that have different roles within our team. So what we do is we work for the SRO GT World Series. And what we do is we have two teams that we work with. So we work with Bimmer World Random Vandals Racing. They have GT4 M4s, and then they have a Random Vandals actually has a GT3 car. We only work on the GT4 cars. So those two teams we've been involved with them for several years now with the Technician Race Crew program. So what the program is we have our dealership network. We'll nominate certain technicians to go be a part of the race crew. So they have to meet certain criteria, how long they've been at the dealership, what kind of numbers are they turning. They pretty much have to be a standout technician. And then they can be nominated, and then they go into a pool. And in the beginning of the year, we look through those dealerships with our team. We look through the technicians. We read what the managers have said about the technicians and things like that. And we actually select them. So they get selected to work with us on a race. And, genuinely it is, we show up the Tuesday before the race. We have a dinner with the guys, kind of get to know each other. The next morning, we take everybody to the track. We get their credentials, and then we take them to their team. And it's literally, they're immersed from day one. So, this year at COTA, we sent 3 guys with Random Vandals, 3 guys with Bimmer World. As soon as they got there, we met with their crew chiefs, and they assign the guys their jobs for the week. So for the Random Vandals, they had 3 cars, so each technician was on a car with a race technician. With Bimmer World, they have 2 cars, so we had one guy kind of floating back and forth between fuel, tires, and then the other guys were working on the cars. And they do everything from help set the trailer up, get the paddock set up, and they're there as long as the race team needs them there. So Tuesday is the setup day. Wednesday is the first day of practice. They get there with the team. They help work on the cars. They're very involved. They're in the pits. And then, same thing with Wednesday, Thursday. It's practice, qualifying, and then we have our race on Saturday. Testing again on Friday, and Saturday is our race. What's cool about COTA, unique about it was the endurance race. It was actually a 3-hour race.
Yeah.
So they had to do actual pit stops during these races. A lot of times they're about an hour, 55-minute races. They may come into the pits for some suspension adjustments, maybe change a tire here and there, but these guys are doing full-on refuels, changing tires. We had a guy working the lollipop. The car has to stop in the exact spot. They're all wearing fire suits. I mean, it was really cool. I'm sitting back, as a host, but also as a hardcore car guy. I'm like, man, what a cool opportunity, and so we're just me and my partner at the time, Jason, we're just going back and forth between the pits. We're checking in on it, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna stand out of the way because these guys are, they're fully involved. And then usually on the Sundays, and Sundays is usually the GT3 days, so we don't really aren't involved. So the guys at that time kind of, get to be spectators, get to be in the pits. But our crew chose to stick with their teams and actually help them out with that. They helped them out with their other car, and they were really involved. So that's one really cool thing, and it's open to any BMW dealership, and any race. So we do all the major SRO races for the GT Cup series. Like my next one is going to be out in Indy with Antonio, so we'll be hosting that. Really looking forward to that. I've never been out to the track. Coda was amazing. It was an amazing time. And again, if it's cool to go out and talk and then just kind of get to know the race teams, kind of get to know what they do on a daily basis. And, I can't stress enough, it's not a program where the technicians are just kind of sitting back, like holding a flashlight, right? They know that these guys are technicians. So they're in there, they're in there doing the thing and helping everything go. So it's a super cool program, really exciting part of the job.
Antonio,
really, really hard work week for me that week.
Yeah, right. And Antonio, you're heading out to the tracks too?
Yeah, so I've been doing the racetrack with Lisa since like 2018 when I first joined the brand. So it's been an amazing opportunity. I'm actually going, my next race will be, I was supposed to go to Sebring with Lisa next week, but unfortunately I have, so like Jake said, we have to do our job first. So it's recruiting, placements, presentations. So we have a huge thing in San Diego next week. So Sue, my manager Novak, will be flying out next week, and we're going down to Miramar College in San Diego to do something out there. So unfortunately, I can't make Sebring, which I love Sebring. Lisa doesn't like Sebring. For me, Sebring is an amazing track. I don't know why nobody wants to volunteer to do the Sebring race, but I like it. But since I can't go to Sebring, I'll be going out to Road America with Jason, the counterpart that we have that Jake was just talking about. And then I'll finish off my last race in Indy with Jake. So we only do about 2 races, maybe sometimes 1, depending on our schedule. That goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Jay, is we plan our year ahead. So we know what we can do, what are our major events for recruiting, because that's first, what colleges are we going to visit, and then we'll find the cool stuff like the Technician Race School program that we can squeeze in there, and what races we can and cannot do.
That is really cool. By the way, I don't live that far from Road America, so when you're up there, you should let me know. Maybe I'll meet up with you and come say hi. I love that track too. Yeah. What would you say is what has been your favorite track over the years?
Let's see. Road America is honestly, it's either. So my favorite track actually was Laguna Seca, but we don't do Laguna Seca anymore. So Laguna Seca is an IMSA race, and we stopped doing IMSA back in like 2018. That was like the only opportunity I was able to go to Laguna Seca. But if we're gonna go to the SRO tracks, I'm a huge Road America fan. I like going out to Sheboygan. There's some cool stuff out there, and it just, I'm not a Green Bay Packers fan.
Come on now.
I'm a huge Cowboy fan, Jay. I'm sorry.
Oh man! Oh,
you guys broke my heart back in 2000.
Show ended.
I was catch that Des Bryant did catch, so that's still hurts.
Easy. So we were in Dallas last year for the tie. In that, talk about the most anticlimactic thing you could ever attend. You go to this event, and we're having a blast with all the Cowboys fans down there, and you ended a tie, and everybody it feels like everybody lost. Like, so you're leaving the stadium, and it's just not what you would normally have for like bantering back and forth and all the fun that goes along with that. It was just very like that we just sat through that and it ended in a tie. Like, that's not supposed to happen.
Yeah. But
brutal.
It was a good game though. It was
a great game. We had a blast, and Jerry World's always fun to go to. Yeah. Very, very good time.
Every shop, dealership, and business in our industry depends on great technicians. Between the technician shortage, disconnected school relationships, and lack of trustworthy workforce data, it makes it difficult for shops to plan, hire, and grow. That's where ASE Connects comes in. Created in partnership with WrenchWay, ASE Connects is a membership designed specifically for shops like yours to help you build a stronger technician pipeline by connecting with schools, empowering you with tools and data to improve your recruiting, retention, and performance. With ASE Connects, you can connect with local schools through School Assist, start building relationships, and support the programs that educate our future technicians. You can also access verified data on technician pay, benefits, and labor rates through the Industry Data Exchange so you know how your shop compares locally and nationally. Lastly, you can get proven strategies for leadership, employee development, and shop management through members-only guides, templates, and events. Join ASE Connects to strengthen your workforce and build a stronger, smarter shop. Learn more at wrenchway.com/solutions/shops or follow the link in the show notes.
All right. Well, let's talk STEP. I think you guys both mentioned STEP. Which one of you wants to volunteer to tell us a little bit about STEP?
I mean, I can talk about the automotive program, and then that way we can transition over to Jake so he can talk about the body and paint program, if that's okay with
There
you.
we go.
Yes,
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. So our automotive program is a 6-month program that we have out here in the West Coast in Riverside, California. And then we also have our second location in Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey, which is the home to our BMW North America headquarters. And so our training center is there as well. So the 6-month program was actually changed back in 2021. Our former program that we had was a 16-week, more of a student-based program where you would learn more of a textbook, student cars. So what our dealerships wanted were technicians that had more experience. So where our management did is they went back, Gary Matsu, which you know very well, they went back to, and him and Tom Black went back to kind of thinking what we can do to help the dealership support that effort and provide them the technician that they wanted. A technician that not only has the knowledge base, but also has the experience and can adapt to a dealership lifestyle. So what we did is we developed a new STEP program that we have now, which is full-on hands-on training, 6 months, 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, weekends and holidays off, and our technicians actually get paid every week while they attend school. So they get the minimum wage of California, and then the technicians out in the East Coast get the minimum wage of New Jersey. But our technicians go in on my coast, they go in at 6 a.m., they clock in, they clock out at 3 p.m., and we're actually paying them to be technicians. So they're working on live cars, they're working on buybacks, repossessions, employee leases, dealership leases. And did I already say repossessions? So repossessions are in there as well. So when they do is our technicians are brought in. It's a small class. I have a class of 4. Jake has a class of 3 in the East Coast. The reason for that is we have more bays out in the West Coast. We expanded our location, so we have 30 lifts in Riverside, and Jake, I think there are about 10 or 12 lifts. Mm-hmm. So on my side, our technicians get their individual stall, their own tools. We provide them uniforms, and they come in the morning and they're doing MPIs on cars. As soon as the MPIs are done, they multi-point inspections for the MPIs, right? Once they figure out this is a repossession and it has the rear brakes that need to be replaced, they order the parts right there, and then we have our parts department in each individual workshop, both East Coast and West Coast. They receive the parts and they start working on that repair themselves. The instructor will supervise them, make sure that they're doing it correctly, and then those cars get sent off to auction. So, from then they get pushed down the line. So our technicians are pulling another car. So that we're treating them like as technicians are being treated at a dealership. I have students right now that are 3 months in and have already done 75 cars on their own.
Wow.
And I'm talking about different types of jobs, not just oil changes, not just tire changes. My guys, by week 2, they're already doing windshield replacements on cars on their own. We have over like 300 to 400 windshield replacements a month in Riverside, It's completely different on the East Coast. It's just California roads are a little bit more different than out in the East. So compared, I think the last time we checked, they only do about 10 windshield replacements a month. We do anywhere between 200 to 300. So our technicians have to be able to adapt and learn these new repairs at an early stage. I'm talking about week 1, week 2. So that's how much type of work that they're receiving that they're working on. Not only oil changes, tire changes, they're doing anything that a technician would be doing at a dealership. And the great thing about our program is that all of our cars are the same color, except the electrical ones. So electrical, we don't teach in step. They have to get to a dealership and go through that advanced training. But what I mean is that they're all the same. Is if I've seen my technicians work on an M8 competition, that's something that you will not see. They're paired up with the master technician and they're being taught how to work on these cars, but that's something you would not see at a dealership. Because at a dealership, that customer's waiting for that car, and if there's an M8 competition, that car is going for more than over $140,000. So, there has to be the right technician that's touching that car. However, on our program, the benefit is, and the value they can get behind it, is that they're able to work on these luxury cars at such a young age and such stage in their career that they can progress, because there is no customer waiting behind in the lobby waiting for that car. Right, so our technicians can take the time and they can practice on how to do these repairs correctly, efficient, and correct. So that's a great thing about the program, is that they're doing 4 days at the workshop, and then they do 1 day in our training center. So that one Friday, what they do is they get to go back and they get to talk about what they did throughout the week. So what were their flaws? What can they do better? And if everybody is on track and is doing the jobs correctly, then the instructor has student cars that they can work on, that they can bug. They'll do competitions on who can find the bug faster, because in the training center, they can use those tools to their advantage, because those are cars that are there for them, that they can break a bolt and nobody's gonna get upset about it. And it's a perfect world. It's a perfect program. And dealerships are so impressed on the way that our program has changed over the last few years, that we have dealerships and we have big organizations like Sewell out in Texas. They'll fly out to Ontario just to do a full-on interview with all of our students in class and present them job opportunities, where they'll fly them out to Dallas, give them a rental, pay for the hotel, and give them a tour of their facility, if that's the right candidate for them. So that's the type of quality that we're producing from this program, that dealerships are so amazed on the scales that they're bringing out. I have a guy right now in class that's only 22 years old and already has his A1 through 8.8.
Nice.
He's 3 months in the program. So right now he has 3 dealerships that are competing and giving him offers before he graduates in July. So that's the type of quality of students that we're bringing in, but we're also pushing out at a higher caliber after they go through our training.
What I love about what you were talking about there is what focus you have on making it as close to a true dealership setting as you can, and the focus on some of the basics, right? Because I've been to a lot of advisory committee meetings where we've almost had to level set with the school that we're talking to, right? Where a lot of times they're trying to focus on some of the more advanced stuff. And we're like, wait a minute, just take a step back a little bit and let's focus on the basics. Because by a lot of times it feel like some of the younger technicians, especially, and I was guilty of this when I was a young tech, right? Was I wanted to jump right to advanced diagnostics. And you're like, wait a minute, we've got to do these really, really core things really, really well, or you're never going to be you're not going to live up to the potential that you have as a technician until you get that grounding, right? So as you're talking through that, I'm like, man, that's awesome. The MPI, focusing on the MPI, how important is that to our daily life in a dealership?
And being proficient doing MPIs, because a lot of the technicians are not getting paid while they're doing MPIs, right? So it's how do they use their time effectively And that way, when they get to the dealership, they know how to do the recording for working on the customer cars. They're doing the MPIs correctly. They've done multiple MPIs. One of my recent graduates that just graduated, he got hired by one of our dealerships here locally in Southern California. Since he did so many windshield replacements, I even asked him, "How many have you done?" He's like, "I can't even count." He was only 2 months into the dealership, and a car came in to do a windshield replacement. Nobody in the dealership knew how to do it, so he had to teach a class.
Wow.
He had to teach a class to his mentor and to the rest of the technicians on how to do a windshield replacement. And that's a guy that's just graduating from the STEP program, coming into a dealership, and you think, you would have somebody there with those type of expertise, but that's kind of new, and it's a hard thing to do. It's not something that's so simple. Jake can tell you himself, he's a body and paint technician. It's not something that's just, it was just with time, repetition, that he was able to now use those skills to his advantage to show how much value he's bringing to that dealership. And now that dealership is up to, they hired 4 of my STEP graduates. They want to hire a 5th. And that just goes to show you how great the program is when the dealerships are bringing in our technicians, because they know the type of caliber that they're graduating from that class.
Oh, I love that. Now, Jake, let's shift to your side. Can you tell us a little bit about that everything you've got going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So, me and Antonio, we both recruit for the collision program. We only offer it in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So back in 2018, they built a brand new training center, state of the art, strictly for body and paint. So at the training center, we have dealership technicians, certified collision technicians come in from the south, come in from the east, that they need to come and do their BMW certifications. We run that training as well. And then one of the things we do there is the body and paint step. So a couple differences is the body and paint step program is a 9-month program. So it's 3 months longer than automotive. And then we actually accept up to 10 students because we have the capacity there. If you walk into that facility, it's just body and paint. So if you go into our other training centers, it's a lot of automotive with a little body and paint section kind of in the back. But we're kind of the opposite. So the way that step works is, body and paint step works is, once everybody's in the class, the first 3 months are going to be your certification classes. So it's still very hands-on. You're not going to be sitting there taking notes, looking at a PowerPoint. From day one after your student orientation is when you start your first task, which we usually start them off with small damage repair. So we take brand new hoods that the previous classes have painted and refinishing. The instructors will start out with, how to read the light, how to use a paintless dent repair light, really over analyzing the dent, try to figure out the least aggressive method to repair the dent. And then, one thing I learned when I went from a traditional BMW or a traditional collision tech at a dealership to a BMW technician is, our emphasis on straightening the metal as much as you can before applying any kind of filler. So we actually pretty much for a lot of these guys, it's just going back to what they learned in their tech school, and we're tweaking what they already know to push them kind of in that BMW direction. So, you may have used a certain grit of sandpaper or, the way that you repaired a dent. We're going to look at how you're doing that, kind of let everybody do it on their own at first, and then we're going to go from there. Really fine tune your skills. So we do, that first 3 months, everybody is going to become a certified collision technician or either a certified refinish technician. So the ending of that 3 months ends with around a 2 to 3 week refinishing course that everybody goes through. So day one, what we do is we ask the students, do you want to be a body tech? Do you want to be a painter? Or are you kind of undecided? Because then that way we take the class and we figure out who's looking to be a refinish technician, who's looking to be a collision technician. And then everybody's going to do all the body classes and all the paint classes together. That way everyone's getting each side of the industry. And then at the end of the 3 months, when they've completed all of their certification training, that's where we start our live work portion. So we take those students who have decided to become painters. They're going to be in the paint shop. The students that are doing the body work, they're going to be in the body shop. And then kind of from that point forward, it's ran like a traditional body shop. So in the morning, the students come in, We get there at 7 a.m. They meet with their instructors, kind of go through a quick briefing. We'll pull up the whip and see what cars everybody has, how long they've been there, what stages that they're in. Because again, these are all live vehicles. So for South Carolina, 99% of our work is associate lease cars from the plant. We have around 11,000 BMW employees. And out of that 11,000, it's probably 60 to 70% lease a vehicle. So we have a ton of vehicles coming into our training center. So one of the benefits about STEP, and Antonio talked about this earlier, is the exposure to the industry. So we have big dealerships come through. Sometimes we have smaller local BMW dealerships come through that expose the students to their needs. So this is technicians are very sought after, and kind of once the word got out about the STEP program is these corporate recruiters for these dealerships are coming to us. And oftentimes they'll call or text me, Antonio, like, hey, I'm looking for a technician, I'm looking for a collision tech. Like, when's your next class graduate? When can I come visit? And so, with dealerships like Hendrick, like Sewell, they come in, they present their opportunities to the students, and they do interviews on the spot. So our instructors will actually, one of the first things they do is help with the students' interview skills. So those instructors will do basically a spot interview with the students. They really don't know when it's coming. Kind of put them on the spot, and we actually record them through the interview process. And then we watch it back, and we say, okay, this is what you're doing with your hands. You're a little fidgety. You seem nervous. And we give them that interview training, so when those dealerships come in, they're prepared for the interview. They know the questions to ask the employer, and they know kind of what questions they're going to be asked. We've had several students, they might have moved in from California and they decide to go work in Texas or Florida, North Carolina, Atlanta. It's just they're very exposed to the dealerships, and that's one of our goals with me and Antonio is not only getting the students in the program. Kind of we mentor the students as they're going through our programs, and then on the end is helping them gain employment using our connections that we have to help them get into a certified body shop or a dealership as a service technician.
I think that's so cool, and kind of going back to something you had talked about earlier in changing their approach if they're in a similar situation to what you were in, right, where you came from more of a traditional body shop, and even kind of honing in on the proper way to repair a dent, and you're not just maybe slapping mud on it and moving on. You're trying to maybe analyze the dent for what it is and trying to make the actual repair versus just, we always hear in the repair business, throwing parts at it. Well, that's kind of the same there, right? Where if it's something where it's deemed unrepairable, then you're throwing parts at it versus like, hey, or you want to fix it the right way. You want a good quality repair when it goes out so that the customer is happy. I like that approach. I like being able to kind of reset and take it back to, even though you may have been trained one way, like this is the way we do it here. And this is the BMW standard. I think there's a lot of importance in that.
Yeah. And I think too, is what the instructors do. And they do this on the automotive side as well, is kind of help build the students' confidence. Because going through college, you may not have seen some of the repairs you're going to see, and it can seem intimidating, or it can seem like it's a lot. But what we do is really try to break it down to the very basics. And once you start reading those repair instructions and relying on your training, and again, you have the instructor there, so you're never going to be like, hey, you need to weld this quarter panel on. You need to have it done in 3 days and the car to be done. It's not like that at all. It's like, let's make a plan. Let's think about this. Let's talk about what we're going to
do. This week's episode of Beyond the Wrench is brought to us by Jasper Engines and Transmissions. Okay, your customer's engine or transmission has failed, but now is not the time for them to trade their vehicle. Not without a working engine or transmission. Besides, would they have kept their vehicle another 3 to 5 years if their engine or transmission had not let them down? If you answered yes, then Jasper Engines and Transmissions is your choice to give your customer's vehicle new life and many thousands of miles of enjoyable driving performance. When considering the high cost of a new or newer used vehicle, there's a pretty good case to be made for replacing a drivetrain component that has failed or is delivering poor performance. Rather than trading their car, truck, van, or SUV, install a quality remanufactured Jasper product for less than your customer would have to invest in a new vehicle or a newer used vehicle. Check out their website at jasperengines.com to learn more about the money-saving value of Jasper.
All right, Antonio. So Jake was talking about those important relationships with employers. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So Jay, one of the great things, and I think this goes back to the passion that me and Jake have for what we do. Not only are we doing this, we do it because we love talking to students, right? We love the interaction. Jake goes back his background, my background, two completely different backgrounds, but we always help students in some sort of way get to a career path that they're looking for. And this terms either the automotive industry or in the collision industry. So one thing that me and Jake do is, since we love what we do every day, I was once told this: if you love what you do, you'll never have to work a day in your life, right? So, and that's one great thing that me and Jake, we established a relationship from the beginning with our students. From day one, until we keep contact with them throughout the process while they're waiting to get to a class. And in those points, me and Jake have like monthly calls with them to make sure that their housing is ready, that they have financially, they have a plan to get to class, just details about them. And that goes beyond what we do as recruiters. Is not only doing presentations across the country, is we also have meetings that we have to take place with our students to keep those relationships going. So that way we know that they're going to get to either South Carolina, New Jersey, or California safely, and that they have housing secured, apartment secured, because that's priority. So keeping contact with them. What we also do is while they're in class, we also help them get in contact with different organizations. We set up those plans with Hendricks, with Sewell, with any collision center or dealership that wants to do virtual visit, wants to do a virtual call or actual in-person presentations. If they want to come out to the West, I'll schedule logistics where they can fly into Ontario. I'll meet them in Ontario. We'll have dinner. I'll take them to Camp Pendleton to see our military step class that we also have. Get them on base, get them a tour of the location, have them speak to the students. Then we'll bring them up to Riverside, have them do a presentation there. So there's a lot of logistics that go in our roles that me and Jake do that go way above just only going to colleges and technical schools and doing a presentation. There's a lot of moving parts, which is why I always talk about time management, because things like that always pop up in our calendar where we have a dealership out of nowhere. Hey, Antonio, how's it going? Can we pop in and do a presentation for your guys? Absolutely. We're always welcome to it. Let me just look at my calendar, and if I have the time, I'll help that organization plan a trip out to either California, or I'll call Jake and have him plan a trip out to the East Coast where we can host them, be great, ambassadors to them, so that gives our students an opportunity to get an employment before they even graduate from class, right? And that's our overall goal, is placement to dealerships, and for them to be either BMW technicians for BMW for a very long time, or body techs at one of our certified collision centers.
Is this how often is a student coming that this is the first time they've been on a plane?
It varies.
I know that's a loaded question, but I look back.
Honestly, our kids honestly drive, so for them it's a lot easier to have a car. And then I have a student, and she just graduated from the program. Jake knows her. She got hired down in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. So she's originally from Long Beach. Went to a technical school out here in Long Beach. She graduated. She drove cross country. All the way up to South Carolina. Yeah, so she did a few stops to get there, but our students would rather drive than fly, and that's just because they want to be able to have that transportation while they're in class, right? They want to be able to not have to rely on somebody else, because they're going to a completely different state. For some students, it's their first time leaving that state or that city. So it can be a culture shock. So we want to be able to have them feel comfortable. And if for majority, I say 90% of them will drive in. You'll have some that will fly, but could get their car transported to that state within a month or two.
Yeah. that I look back at when I was younger, and the need to travel cross country would be terrifying, right? And I think now, over several decades of traveling, that has really become second nature to me. But if you would have talked to me when I was in my, I still remember my first ever business trip, where my family didn't fly a lot growing up. And actually, I think my first ever flight, true commercial flight, was for a job, right? And so I was probably 20 years old at that point, the first time that I truly took a commercial flight, and took it by myself. And so when you're going through, and you're kind of going through security and all of that, it's intimidating. Driving across country would also be very intimidating, right? To get in your car and drive all the way across.
Absolutely.
I also know, like, the reliability of vehicles, even though I grew up in a shop, probably wouldn't have wanted to drive across country with what I grew up with.
I think young me, I think I would have been nervous too. Now,
Yeah.
older me, Marine Corps,
No problem.
two deployments, traveled from here to there, and then BMW, I'm on a plane left and right. I would plan a trip because it would be joy for me. Like, I would make a pit stop, across different lines to get
Same.
before I get there. But going back, younger me, I don't know. I think I would be pretty nervous when I flew into when I left California for the first time after the Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps, they flew me out. My first duty station was Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and it was a complete culture shock for me. I'm born and raised in LA. So when I get to North Carolina, there's nothing but like trees everywhere. It's so green. I'm like, what is this place? The community hit me, and I'm like, why do I feel like this? It feels so yucky.
For a technician that's going through this program, though, or potentially going to go through this program, the one thing I would say is, this is a wonderful thing for you to force yourself to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, and to do something a little different. I think the more you can do that, for any person, right? Not just a young person coming in to be a technician, but for any person, pushing boundaries and kind of forcing yourself out of what makes you comfortable is really what creates that growth. And so, like, that's another area or another avenue that I think is really beneficial, is for a young person to kind of get out of their comfort zone and try something different.
Yep. And then that goes to the relationships that me and Jake have with our students, is being able to have them trust us when we're talking to them, have that relationship. For some of them, it's their first time ever leaving home. So they need to be able to help trust us, so we can guide them into the right place, get them started in their career path. But once we talk to them, we mentor them and stay in communication with them before they get to class, is where we want to help them get out of that comfort zone, pop that bubble, get them out of that bubble, so that way they can see what's out there, and they'll like it. And all of our students are successful. Me and Jake have students across the industry right now that have been with the brand for a lot of years. After some of my students I recruited 8 years ago, Jake was their instructor, and it's like a revolving circle, and they're out in the industry now. But it's getting them to burst that bubble, get them out of that comfort zone. But it all goes back to having that mentorship that me and Jake established with them from day one.
Jake, I think there'd be a great opportunity for Antonio to teach them how to pack a suitcase as they're getting there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. The students we have, it's always funny when they come to South Carolina or come to New Jersey. It's like, they'll show like a picture of their apartment. It's the fold up chair, the air mattress. They don't bring a lot of stuff. And when I was an instructor, I mean, even I was a recruiter, but Antonio's crew would all jump in a car together, or 3 or 4 cars, and they'd come across country. I mean, 3 or 4 days they'd show up, they'd have all their stuff with them. And then they'd either drive back to California, or they'd drive off to wherever their jobs are going to be. So, I mean, again, we tell the students this in our presentations and our application process, is that, we're not, this isn't an easy process, that you're going to have to maybe move, you're going to have to make sacrifices, but it's the end result that pays off. It's what you're getting out of the training. If maybe you don't want to come to California STEP for training, but you're still interested in BMW, we can get you in touch with one of our career recruiters, one of our technician recruiters, and try to go in that way. But, for STEP itself, it's, like I said, we have students come from all over. They I've got several students from Florida that are in New Jersey now. They drove up to New Jersey, they're doing their step, and then I've got students getting ready to graduate that are already asking, about certain shops and things that they're looking to go work for. So we're always there for the guys. That's kind of our main goal is providing that mentorship. Communication, I think, is key. We talk to our students a lot. They have our numbers, and they'll text or call or, hey, I got a question. I don't know where to park. I had a student call me the other day. I'm at the training center. Where do I park? And it's like kind of like, calm down, walk through the process. You're fine. They're not going to fire you on your first day. Like they expect those kind of things. So, but yeah.
What's funny though is that's something I've told a local dealership that actually is just a great dealership. I said that was one of the things that terrified me the most. I never applied with them, and the reason why I never applied with them was because they had this big, beautiful dealership, and it was terrifying to me to bring my little hoopty of a car into their parking lot and try to figure out a spot to park where I wasn't going to get yelled at for parking in the wrong spot. And, looking back, some of the stuff that is now perceived as somewhat silly, you kind of understand where they're coming from, because that stuff that was terrifying to me back then, right? Like that stuff that's maybe we take for granted, that is a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's still kind of that's still one of my things when I drive somewhere. Like if I drive to a college, I'm always asking the instructor, where am I supposed to park? Where do I go in? Like I want to know exactly where I need to go, because I don't want to see some guy with a backpack walking around campus, and I'm like, I'm just looking for, the automotive program, and so, show me where I'm supposed to be. I'll be there. I don't want to drive through an unauthorized area. So, but yeah, our instructors do a really good job of getting with the students about 30 days before they start. Mm-hmm. They help them with directions. They'll send them pictures of what the training center looks like, where they're supposed to be. So, try to get some of those last minute jitters out.
Yeah, very interesting. Now, Antonio, you mentioned kind of the military side of this. Can you talk to us a little bit about that side?
Absolutely, Jay. So in 2018, BMW wanted to do something. Well, before 2018 is when we launched the program. That's the same time I was transitioning out of the military. So it happened like at the same time. I was departing the Marine Corps. The program had first launched, so it was one of those things where I was able to jump right into the program, where BMW wanted to give something back to the service members across, all branches. So they developed a program called Military Stat, which is a 16-week program where students learn bumper to bumper, Monday through Friday, weekends and holidays off. So we're pulling students from active duty. So the military has programs on base that you can attend with different organizations. You have to be a year out before you leave the military for your service. So you can apply to the program, and you can take these types of programs like one of ours that you can attend, but meeting the qualifications to help you start a career path in whichever way you're looking for. So if you want to be an automotive technician and that's the career path you want to look for, then our program is available. There's different programs across different organizations that they do on base. But what we do is we look for anybody that has automotive experience or is working with their military occupation specialty that has any type of mechanical background, such as aviation technicians. We have helicopter mechanics. We have Osprey technicians. The Ospreys are the planes that the Marine Corps, the Navy has that go from helicopter to plane. I don't know if you've ever seen it before.
No, sounds awesome.
So they launch up like a helicopter, and then the rotors turn out and they become a plane, so they can take off like an airplane, and then eventually
that's wild.
When you want to land somewhere, instead of finding a landing strip, they'll turn back into a helicopter, rotate, and then land straight down. It's really unique seeing it. I don't know how it happens midair, but it happens. So we look for that. We also have, you got to remember that the military has automotive technicians. They have automotive mechanics that work on Humvees, 7 tons vehicles, so heavy equipment mechanics. So there's all different types of MOSs across the military. So what we do is we have our partnership with Universal Technical Institute, where they have recruiters for that specific program, where they'll gather up different packages with different active duty members that they want to apply to the program, then we go ahead and do we vet them. So we have to be able to go through the packages, make sure that they have qualifications. We look for the overall, are they a good Marine? Where have they served? Like MOS, background, personal vehicles that they've worked on. Then we have an interview panel. So if there's 20 submissions, we select the top 9 students. So we go through an interview portion where I'll ask some questions. Our education supervisor on both the East Coast and West Coast will sit on the panel as well. And then we'll have one of UTI's management sit on the call as well, or in person. And we'll vet through and pick the top candidates that we think are best for the program, that it's going to benefit for them and benefit for us. And overall, once we select them, they'll attend the course, graduate as a member technician. So they'll do their BMW ASE test, their associate test. Then they'll do their BMW members test. So they're ready to go out into the industry. And as well, having those partnerships with organizations like Sewell, Hendricks. We have different BMW dealerships that will go on base with me as an escort. I'll escort them into the base since I have credentials. I'll bring them into the base, and they can do a presentation for our students. Again, full interviews right then and there. Jake does the same thing on the East Coast in Fort Bragg. So Fort Bragg also has a program, but that one we launched, I think maybe 5 years ago. So it launched after Camp Pendleton. So Camp Pendleton was our first location. But what happened is we had so much push for technicians that were coming out of this program. Not only want to support the military, right? But you're getting a service member that is going to be on time. He has that discipline. He has a structure. He's traveled before. And if he is from, let's say, New Jersey, and he wants to go back home, then we get that technician to where where his home is, right? Because being a happy technician is a productive technician. So the good thing is with service members being from all over the country is that we can get them to a specific dealership of their choice because they want to go back home. And it gives us a better option to give them that career path with BMW.
We need to do another episode just on that, right? Because there's so much that we could talk about in that regard. We've done different types of content around hiring military veterans, and I think part of it has been some of the content that's been really interesting to me has been about how me without a military background can learn to lead veterans, right? And I think even helping with the transition to civilian life, it's all helpful. And I think the more conversations we can have around that and around the great work that you're doing around that, I think the better. So we'll have to have you guys back on to talk through that side as well.
Yeah, definitely. And by that time, we'll have our training program that we just launched. So I took lead on a project with my manager, Bob, that just retired in April.
Yes. Shout out, Bob. We're going to miss him.
42 years, great guy. I've been with
Bob Whitty.
Day one, yep. We started, developing or thinking, what can we develop to help our service members and to help a manager that's never had a service member apply to his dealership? How can we, bridge that gap? And we did last month, I started doing video shoots out in Camp Pendleton, and BMW of El Cajon also assisted as well because they've taken a few of my graduates from the military program that they have as technicians. So we're creating this whole training module specifically for managers in the industry for BMW to help them bridge that gap. It's short minute video, 1 to 2 minute videos that we have that we develop. So hopefully by the time that gets out, we can do another segment so you can kind of see what we're doing with them.
I'll make time for that whenever you guys want to. That one sounds awesome, and the program as a whole sounds awesome. Definitely want to learn more about it. Now, as we're getting close to the end of the show, we're going to shift to kind of some of our fun questions and a little get to know you type of questions. First one, Jake, what was your first car?
Man, first car is a Datsun 280ZX.
Nice.
Yeah, not as nice as you would think, but it was my project at the Career Center. Got it into primer, and it just started kind of breaking down on me. I didn't have the means to fix it at the time. I had bought something else, so I sold it. I regret selling that car.
Yeah.
But yeah, first car is a Datsun 280ZX.
Underrated car. I love that body style. Super,
Yeah.
super, super cool. Antonio, same question. What was your first car?
So my first car, believe it or not, I was not it's not that I wasn't a fan of BMW. It's just I had no clue about BMW, right? I grew up in an environment where it was Chevy, Ford, but there was a car right out of high school that it really set eyes on. It was a 1992 325i
Nice.
with manual transmission. So I had no clue or idea how to drive a manual. Let's say that I burned that clutch within 3 weeks. And the repair was kind of pricey for my age. That was back
I
in
bet.
2004. So, I had just started working and blew the clutch. And then just started, other little things started mishappening. So unfortunately, I didn't keep the car long. And then I ended up joining the military right after that. So I ended up selling the car. I wasn't going to need it, but that was my first car.
I'm glad I'm not alone in burning out a clutch in the first vehicle. That I was just having this conversation with my dad where his driving lessons were not the best. It was go learn, go figure it out. And so I had a Ford Ranger that I blew the clutch out almost immediately. And I don't think it was in great shape to start with, but yes, same thing. You learn how to change a clutch pretty quick when you blow it out and you grow up in a shop. So great information. Next question, Antonio, I'll start with you on this one. Are you early bird gets the worm or night owl? Which would you prefer?
I'm an early guy, military, right? So my day starts, I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm at the gym by 5:30, doing stairs, a little bit of weightlifting, still trying to keep that military lifestyle, and then get home, take the kids to school, get back to the home office, start my emails. So for this role, I have to be an early morning person, but I like it because it gets my day going, it gets my energy up. Once I'm at the gym, for me it gets my day rolling through the morning. So it makes it easy for me to wake up, and having to do the dad things is dropping off all the kids at school. So my wife works for BMW as well. She works in the service department, so she's off early in the morning. So I become a full dad. I do all the dad duties in the morning.
Someday I'm going to have that routine. I've said that for about 15 years, but I'm hit or miss. And I always get credit to you because I get thrown off with travel, right? My routine, if I'm at home for, several weeks straight, I get a routine down. Then I start traveling and everything falls apart. So I give you a lot of credit for that. Jake, how about you?
Let's see. If I could be like a not morning person, but then someone who goes to bed early, that would probably describe me. But no, I honestly, I'm not super early. There was a time in my life when I was at when I was instructor, we had to be in the training center by 7 a.m. I was up, at the gym 5 a.m. doing that stuff, and then as the schedule got a little more flexible, if I can get a couple extra hours of sleep, I'm definitely gonna take advantage of it. Anything after coffee, it doesn't really matter what time, as long as I have some coffee, I can keep moving. But I tend to, I tend to do a lot of things after, the kids go to bed, after they go to sleep. That's kind of when I can catch up on, the day, right? So there's that chaotic period from when school lets out to when everybody, dinner time on stuff. And then, after that, so I would consider myself maybe someone that stays up a little bit later. But, when Antonio's in town, we're getting up early and we're going to the gym. And there's
What's good about having Jake on my team, Jay, honestly, is we have the same mindset. And when we're in Woodcliff Lake together, anywhere we travel, we're up in the morning, like, hey, you up? Yep, we're making it to the gym. Let's go. We make it a plan to get to the gym, wake up, and shake it off because we know we have a long day. We have meetings to go to. But just having him as a motivation instead of sleeping in, it's always great that somebody that shares the same mindset as you, because it just keeps us active, and at our age, I'm turning 40 in June. So, I want to be able to still have keep that same drive going forward.
I think that also shows you the power of surrounding yourself with good people, right? Because in that case, you've got one another to push each other, and that is always something that even I have a 9-year-old son. I talk to him about that all the time, about making sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people, people that are going to push you to be better. I think that that is another underrated piece of really living a quality life. Last last question for you guys, and kind of speaking of advice, do you have a best piece of advice that you've received, or a good piece of advice you've received over the course of your life? And Jake, maybe I'll start with you on this one.
Okay, yeah. So for me, this happened very early on in my career. I was going to just got out of college and I was looking for jobs at different body shops. So, back then it was like you just walked in with your application and you found the manager, you gave him the application, and you expected maybe an interview or something then. So there was a time, it may be hard to believe by looking at it, but I actually had long hair. And so I decided to cut my hair, and I wore a nice shirt and, went in to talk to the manager. Although he didn't hire me, he told me, he said, having someone your age, clean cut, you're wearing something nice, even though it's a body shop. He's like, that's going to take you really far. He said, always, and this was like cut for like a job interview. He said, always go into an interview with that same mindset. And, he just didn't have the capacity to hire me at the time. But even though he didn't give me the job, I went into every interview after that fact with like, okay, so, I didn't necessarily want to cut the hair off and, do that. But at that time in my life, I was like, maybe make myself look a little bit more presentable and, going into my interviews, even though it's at a body shop, wearing a nice shirt, shirt tucked in, pants, things like that. And I've kind of taken that with what I lend to the step guys going to their interviews. Like, guys, you may be going to a body shop, you may be going to a service center, but you're also going to BMW, which is a premium brand. Not saying you have to wear a suit and tie to your interview, but don't necessarily wear your shirt that's got the oil stains all over it and things like that, right? Make yourself look presentable before you go into these things. And I've always held on to that from what that guy told me, years and years ago, that just be presentable because you're selling yourself, right? And like I said, he didn't hire me, but he gave me some great words
Ingrained
for me in
something.
the future. Yeah, definitely did, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of technicians over the years where I give that advice as well. Like, could you go in and get the job, dressed maybe not to the top level that you could? Absolutely. But there's some level of holding yourself to a standard and being able to bring your best every time you're going into a conversation. And I think that carries over into so many things. So I love that piece of advice. Antonio, how about you?
Yeah, so for me, Jay, it's a little different. So I mean, my advice, that this is one thing that I think that was told to me, many years ago. It's do something that you want to do because you want to do it, not because somebody else tells you to do it, right? Because at that point, if you go into whatever that thing that you want to go to, a job or an industry, somebody told you to do it, and it doesn't work out, you're going to have somebody to always blame. You're going to put the blame on somebody else instead of yourself, right? So for me, nobody told me to join the military. I did the military because I wanted to. For me, college wasn't it right off the bat. So even though, my family, not that many people went to college, so I was, one of the first ones that my family wanted me to go to college instead of the Marine Corps. But I went to the Marine Corps because I wanted to do it, and I left the military. While I was working with BMW, I enrolled back in college again because I wanted to enroll back in college, right? I saw the value behind it, and I graduated from college after that. I actually fell in love with school. I ended up getting 3 different degrees. So, but
That's awesome.
see, that's how it's. You want to go into something because you want to do it. If something falls because I was told to do it, and I'm going off somebody else's advice, I feel like at that point, if it doesn't work out, if it does, it does. But some people, if it doesn't work out, you're gonna have somebody that you're going to want to blame. Well, I only did it because I was following so-and-so's directions or so-and-so's advice, and that's your escape plan for somebody that you see if it's failure, right? So if you're gonna do something, do it because you want to do it, so that if it doesn't work out, and if you fail at it, you have nobody to blame but yourself, and then you figure it out and work a different mindset or different avenue to get to that point, but just out of your own mindset and of your own will, instead of following somebody else's advice. You can take advice, but do it because you want to do it.
Oh, that is very solid advice as well, and something that I wish I would have heard when I was a teenager, late teenager, because you are easily influenced by so many others, and especially with family, right? I think you're hearing different avenues, but in your heart of heart what you like to do, and I think that's the important piece. So great advice from both of you. Great conversation. I really, really appreciate both of you coming on the show, and what a pleasure. What a fun conversation. I've still got a lot to learn on how to pack my suitcase from Antonio that I'm going to be picking his brain on. But thank you, guys. We'll definitely have you back on. We'll do it again. This was a blast.
Awesome, Jay.
Thank you,
very
Jay.
much.
Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it was a blast. So thank you for having us.
That wraps up another episode of Beyond the Wrench. If you like this episode, please show your support by rating and following the podcast. You can also watch the video interviews on WrenchWay's YouTube channel. Speaking of WrenchWay, Beyond the Wrench is managed and produced by the WrenchWay team. WrenchWay is dedicated to promoting and improving careers in the automotive, diesel, and collision industries. In partnership with ASE, we run the ASE Connects community, which empowers shops and dealerships with reliable data, school connections, and industry insights, while helping grow the future technician workforce. You can learn more by visiting wrenchway.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.